Greetings, friends, and welcome back to the 3-Minute Horror Show. My name is Ben, your host, and I love horror movies. In fact, I watch the bad movies so that you don't have to. You're welcome. Today I'll be reviewing the movie Yo-Yo Girl Cop from 2006. Not to be confused with Yo-Yo Sexy Girl Cop, also from 2006, which is a whole other thing that I'm not even going to get into.
Oh dear.
This is a Japanese language movie based on a Japanese television show centered around a high school-age secret agent. She works for a top secret organization known as K, and she's been tasked with bringing a group of terrorist students to justice.
Right to jail.
This movie was directed by Kenta Fukusaku, who is actually responsible for writing the extremely popular movie Battle Royale, which may or may not have inspired Hunger Games and dozens of other properties. He also wrote and directed the sequel, Battle Royale 2: Requiem. Yo-Yo Girl Cop is not currently streaming here in Canada, so you're gonna have to find yourself a copy. A troublemaking young lady is arrested in New York City, and she's such a badass fighter that she manages to injure a bunch of cops in the process. They put her in a CIA black site, and Japan sends a member of the secret K law enforcement agency to bring her back to Japan. K is investigating an underground group of anarchists and terrorists operating out of a high school in Japan, and they use a message board named Enola Gay to communicate. Now, in case you don't know, the Enola Gay was the name of the bomber that dropped a nuclear bomb on Hiroshima. Anyways, this young lady reluctantly agrees when her K contact tells her that the Americans have her mother on death row, and they'll let her go completely if she solves the case within 72 hours. She is given a magical yo-yo as her equipment. This movie, and the television show that predates it, are based on a manga that ran from 1975 to 1982. It was named Sukeban Deka, and it was created by Shinji Wada. And that translates to Delinquent Girl Detective. The basic premise of the manga is very close to this movie. A troubled teen is approached by the police, who offer to pardon her mother's crimes if she agrees to become a secret detective to stop criminals in schools.
Oh, interesting.
And she's given a special yo-yo weapon to do so. The television show and the movie that we're talking about today weren't the only adaptations of this story to be released. 2 feature-length movies came out based on the television series, one in 1987 and one in 1988. Also, 2 video games were released, one for the Sega Master System and one for the Nintendo Famicom. An anime OVA was also released in 1991, which features very similar artwork to the manga. Sukeban Deka was a hugely popular and influential manga. It sold more than 20 million copies in Japan alone. And without it, we wouldn't have contemporary manga like Revolutionary Girl Utena or Kill la Kill. Kei gives this girl the name Saki Yazamiya, which is apparently the code name they gave her mother. She was a yo-yo girl cop too, after all. Saki heads into the high school. She acts like a badass right from the jump, letting her classmates know to shut up or she'll kick their asses. There's another popular girl that she immediately doesn't get along with, as well as a nerd girl that the rest of them bully. Saki decides that the nerd girl will be her friend. Over time, she learns that there's a character on the Enola Gay message board named Romeo that the other kids treat as a folk hero, and that he's calling all the shots. We talked about the manga that this movie was based on, Sukeban Deka, in the previous segment, but to understand that a little more, I'd like to talk about one of the root words, sukeban. Sukeban is a Japanese term that means delinquent girl, and it's usually used to refer to gangs of young women that rose to prominence in the 1970s and 1980s in Japan. It's the female equivalent of bancho, which were gangs of young men in the same time period. Sukeban members had dress codes that were usually modifications of their school uniforms. They would wear different colored socks, they'd roll up their sleeves, and they'd lengthen their skirts and they'd adorn them with symbols or slogans. The Sukeban policed themselves, and they adhered to strict codes of conduct within their own group organizations. They also frequently carried easily concealable weapons that they'd hide within their skirts to dole out punishment to anyone who crossed them.
Ouch!
Sukeban and the mystique surrounding them continues to influence media to this day, with nods to the subculture being seen in such things as video games, pro wrestling, anime, and movies. As the deadline draws nearer, kids keep trying to blow themselves up with bombs at the behest of Romeo, and it becomes apparent that he is planning a mass casualty event. Saki and her new friends will have to stop him and his cronies before that happens, or all will be lost. There's another K agent at the school, but she's gone rogue and she has her own yo-yo weapon. In order to defeat Romeo, Saki will need to discover her true inner power and get into lots of cool fights with her yo-yo. There are lots of awesome action sequences in this movie. As far as 2006 CGI goes, this was alright. It was still cheesy and it didn't look great, but I've seen way worse for movies made way more recently. So what can you do?
Oh, damn!
There was a lot of fun action in this one and a lot of over-the-top dialogue, and it didn't seem to include any of that sleazy fan service that Japanese movies with titles like this one seem to have in them.
Oh my.
She kicks butt with a yo-yo, and that's about the size of it. I like this one. I rate Yo-Yo Girl Cop a 7 out of 10. As always, a link to my Letterboxd appears in the video's description. Please leave me a like, comment, and subscribe, as it really does boost my engagement and helps my channel grow. Smell you later, nerds! All the dialogue in this movie is Japanese, so you get me instead. See you in the next one.